Hello, how is everyone doing? Um, I am just doing this very quick video to go over the assignment, the midterm, in case anyone might have any questions or might be confused or might be struggling with coming up with your theme and understanding the project as a whole. So I'll just leave a few pointers here for you to consider. Um, as the first part of this project is due on Sunday, this coming Sunday by midnight, which will be your midterm. But that, as you know, this is a longer project that would culminate at the end of the semester. Um, so just remember that the first part of this project has to do with you finding or identifying a case, a scenario that you would like to analyze. And the scenario has to be um, around a violent conflict. But remember that violence, as we have learned up to now in class, should not only be conceived as direct violence, according to Paul Farmer and Johan Galtung, right? The violence that has to do with hurting people um, with arms, right? Police brutality, war, right? Those kind of expressions of violence. But we have to look at violence also at the structural and cultural level, right? So issues, you as you're thinking about your cases, you should identify issues that also touch upon um, problems associated with the patriarchal society in which we live, issues associated with racism, um, issues associated with poverty, and cases like this could be seen in processes of gentrification in a neighborhood here in New York, for example. Um, you can, of course, think about an explicit war, right? You can also think about issues of religious conflicts. I know some of you are thinking about um, ethnic and religious conflicts in Southeast Asia, for example. You can also think about ethnic cleansing. We read something relating to this by Victoria Sanford in Guatemala, right? So there is a plenty of cases, some of which we have already read a little bit about, but others that you might be interested because you have heard about them on the news or you happen to know them because of your biography, um, right? So just consider the fact that we're looking at a particular case through these three forms of violence, right? Direct, of course, structural, and cultural. That's the first thing that I wanted to point out. So you will identify your case, and the first part of this project is for you to write an opinion article, thinking that you're writing this for the New York Times, for instance, or a local newspaper, in which you are communicating the nature of the issue. What is the problem at hand, right? Here, what I want you guys to do is to talk about the issue in a non-sensational way, in a non-pornographic way, right? You're talking about, let's say, racial tensions in a particular neighborhood in New York, um, and the violence that is at the basis of this, but you will speak about this utilizing some of the jargon, some of the approaches that we have read up to now in the semester, right? So you can think about el testimonio or the testimony as a way, right, of talking about these issues. Remember that the testimony or el testimonio draws from personal stories, right? You tell the history, the issue at hand through the voice of a person, right? Through their personal story, people can get to know and understand a bit better more general structural histories and issues, right? So that's one approach that we study, right? So you will lay down the foundations of the issue, right? Remember that it's lay New Yorkers reading about this; they have no idea or very little idea of what you're talking about. So you will um, explain, right, in detail in a non-sensational way the issue. You also have to include either Zizek's idea of violence. Remember that we read SOS violence or divine violence, right? Um, there was actually a really good presentation about this reading. Or use Farmer's or Galton's idea of this triangle of violence, right? We also had various conversations in class about this um, direct violence, structural, and cultural violence, right? So you will include either Zizek's approach or Farmer, Galton approach to explaining what is the kind of violence that you are concerned with, right? Up to this moment, you are just doing that. That is your op-ed. That is your midterm, right? Brief description of the issue in a non-sensational way, and then taking an approach to speak about violence, drawing from El Testimonio, if you will, or other approaches that we have read, and including Zizek's or Farmer's idea of violence to then explain um, the problem that you are then going to be treating throughout the rest of the semester for your recommendation paper, which would be your final project. Right. So this is the project. I hope this clarifies um, anything that you were perhaps confused about. Please do not let this be more than 650 words. That is about 3 pages long. This is, of course, double-spaced. Use Chicago style, because I'm sure you'll have to quote at some points either Zizek or Farmer or other people that we have read. If you need, which you perhaps will need, to include outside resources, right? Because if it's an issue that we haven't talked about in class, you'd have to include some sort of an outside resource that can be a newspaper article, it could be an academic article, a book, a documentary, right? Anything that has given you the information about the case that you are going to be treating. I am going to be available on my email. So if you need anything, please reach out. And good luck on your midterms. Please bring a copy of your midterm next Monday, right, of your op-ed. We are going to do an exercise with it. So please be sure to do that. Something that I also want to bring to your attention is attendance and participation. Right, those of you, and you know who you are, that have missed some classes, I really like to ask you, especially because we only meet once a week, to come to class. You know that at the end of the semester we are going to miss some classes because we're going to be concentrated on our final projects, and so I really, really need people to be present up to at least the beginning of December. Okay, so that is all. Reach out if you need anything, and have a beautiful weekend. Remember that this is due via email. You'll send me your papers by the end of the day on Sunday, and then you'll bring a copy to class on Monday. Bye and thank you.